This is the most probable place where David's bones rested.
Will one of you fight me? Israelites, you win! And the Philistines will be your slaves!
So this is Jerusalem's western hill. On top of it is the tomb of King David. And here is the tomb. We're gonna go through. But in these ancient times, the way that people were buried is they were buried in a curled up position like this.
Around 1,000 years before the Common Era, a young shepherd named David rose to become the most celebrated king of Israel. He was not born into power, but his courage, wisdom, and faith would lead him to unite the scattered tribes of Israel. David's victories on the battlefield, his skill as a musician, and his devotion to God earned him a place in history that still echoes today. Jerusalem, a city perched among hills, became his capital, a symbol of unity for the people he ruled. David's reign is more than a story of battles and kingdoms. The Bible records his life in vivid detail. In the book of 1 Kings, we are told, "Then David slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David." This short sentence captures a powerful truth. Even the greatest king eventually faced mortality. Yet, where exactly he was laid to rest remains one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. The location of King David's tomb has inspired curiosity and even controversy for centuries. Pilgrims and scholars alike have tried to pinpoint the final resting place of a man whose life shaped a nation. Was it a simple tomb, or something grand befitting a king whose story became the foundation of Israel's history? For many, the search for David's tomb is not just a hunt for bones or stones. It is a quest to connect with a past that shaped their identity, a chance to touch the place where legend and history intertwine. By the time the Crusaders arrived in the 12th century, the memory of King David was deeply woven into the city's spiritual and cultural fabric.
Most probable place where David's bones rested.
Seeking to honor the legendary king, they identified a site on Mount Zion and built a cenotaph, an empty tomb believed to mark the resting place of David himself. The Crusaders' cenotaph on Mount Zion has a rectangular stone structure and a simple design.
Here's the Mount Zion entrance, and you see all the bullet wounds on the wall, and that's from the war back in the days against Jordan.
It became a landmark in Jerusalem, drawing attention from travelers and chroniclers. For those visiting Jerusalem, standing before the cenotaph was like stepping into a living connection with the ancient past. People whispered prayers and recounted tales of the great king, imagining that beneath the stone lay the very remains of the ruler who united Israel and made Jerusalem its heart. Yet beneath the reverence and legend, scholars would later uncover a different story. Archaeological analysis of the cenotaph revealed that it lacked physical evidence connecting it to King David. No artifacts, inscriptions, or remains tied it to the 10th century BCE. Instead, it became clear that the Crusaders had erected the cenotaph as a symbolic monument, a way to honor the king and give the faithful a tangible place of devotion. Let's take you through the search and the relentless efforts that led to the discovery of King David's tomb, and what was found inside will shock you.
Treasure map. In 1913, a man named Raymond Weill was the first Jewish archaeologist to excavate in the most ancient part of Jerusalem.
Raymond Weill was a French Jewish archaeologist. Weill had come with a mission to explore the ancient city and uncover its hidden treasures. Guided by historical texts and earlier research, he aimed to investigate areas that might reveal information about the burial practices of ancient Judahite kings. The southern section of the city of David was chosen as the main site for his work. Over several months, Weill and his team carefully cleared soil and debris, revealing 8 large rock-cut tombs. These tombs were unlike ordinary graves. Each one had multiple chambers, with stone benches carved along the walls.
Okay, I'm standing up in the area that Raymond Weill excavated and down to bedrock, and here we have exposed the city wall that he excavated, and just inside of it are these 9 chambers.
Niches were present for holding bones or burial offerings, indicating that the tombs were intended for wealthy or prominent individuals. Among all the tombs, one stood out in size and decoration. Weill named it Tomb 1, or T1. Its elaborate design suggested it could have been the resting place of someone of royal importance.
And here is the tomb. We're going to go through the entrance to the tomb and then into the first chamber.
Inside the tombs, the team discovered inscriptions etched into the walls. The letters and symbols were in Greek, and some showed traces of paint that had long faded. Weill meticulously recorded every detail, making detailed sketches and photographs of the tomb entrances, the chambers, and the benches. The inscriptions were later analyzed by scholars, who determined that they belonged to the Greek period. This meant the tombs were constructed many centuries after the time of King David, showing that the site had continued to be used and revered long after his reign.
And this is the sarcophagus that Raymond Weill was talking about excavating, where the body would have been laid. How would this worked? It's not very long, but in these ancient times, the way that people were buried is they were buried in a curled up position like this.
The artifacts and inscriptions provided important clues about the customs and traditions of burial during the Greek and Hellenistic periods in Jerusalem. Even though the tombs weren't directly linked to King David, they offered a valuable glimpse into the lives of Judahite elites and the continuity of ancient burial practices. Weill's work drew attention to the city of David and its archaeological potential. His excavation maps, photographs, and notes became critical records for later researchers. By uncovering these 8 tombs and documenting their features, Weill laid the groundwork for future excavations in the area. Archaeologists who came after him would build on his findings to continue exploring the history of Jerusalem's ancient elite and the legendary sites associated with King David. Then, in the 1980s, Dr. Gabi Barkai, an Israeli archaeologist, began another careful excavation on Mount Zion in Jerusalem.
And I was intrigued by the question, who were those people who used them living in Jerusalem immediately?
His focus was the area beneath the cenotaph that had long been associated with King David. The site had drawn pilgrims for centuries, and Barkai wanted to explore what lay hidden beneath the centuries-old structure. Barkai and his team worked slowly, removing soil and debris from the area around the cenotaph. They uncovered the remains of a staircase carved into the rock. The staircase led downward to a hidden chamber that had been sealed for thousands of years. The discovery of the chamber beneath the cenotaph immediately drew attention, as it suggested that something important had been placed there in ancient times. Inside the chamber, Barkai found a collection of pottery fragments. The pottery was carefully shaped and fired, typical of items from the First Temple period, which lasted from around the 10th to the 6th centuries BCE. Along with the pottery, other small artifacts were found, including stone tools and fragments of storage jars. These items were consistent with objects used during the reigns of the kings of Judah, providing a connection to the royal families that ruled Jerusalem in that era. Barkai carefully recorded the location and condition of every object. He photographed the chamber, made sketches, and noted the placement of the artifacts within the space. The pottery and artifacts were then studied using archaeological dating techniques, which confirmed their origin in the First Temple period. This period included the time of King David's descendants, such as King Manasseh, who reigned much later than David. The chamber itself had stone walls and a low ceiling, suggesting it was built to store items or to serve as a burial space. The design was simple but sturdy, with evidence that it had been sealed and preserved for many centuries. The excavation by Dr. Barkai brought new attention to Mount Zion and the area surrounding the cenotaph. His work provided one of the first detailed looks at what lay beneath the structure that had been associated with King David for so long. The artifacts and chamber offered important information about life in Jerusalem during the First Temple period, and about the kinds of spaces that were built for storage or burial by the ruling families. Barkai's documentation included detailed notes, measurements, and photographs that would be used by future archaeologists. The chamber and its contents became part of the growing record of Jerusalem's ancient history. The excavation helped to confirm that Mount Zion had been an active site during the First Temple period, with structures and objects preserved over centuries.
When Eilat Mazar realized she discovered an ancient structure near Jerusalem, she turned to the Bible to help explain what she found.
And she learned that this new discovery supports the biblical accounts of King David.
Between 2005 and 2007, Dr. Eilat Mazar, an Israeli archaeologist and granddaughter of the well-known archaeologist Benjamin Mazar, began a major excavation in the city of David.
And me and my grandfather, Professor Benjamin Mazar, the late Benjamin Mazar, excavating the area of the Ophel and the Temple Mount, surrounding the Temple Mount walls for almost 50 years.
Jerusalem. Eilat Mazar had grown up surrounded by stories of archaeology and the history of Israel, and she had developed a deep interest in uncovering the ancient past. Her goal was to explore the city of David and look for structures and artifacts that could reveal the life and times of Jerusalem's earliest kings.
We were very skeptic at the very beginning. We didn't jump on the idea. It says later.
Despite speculations, Mazar led a dedicated team of archaeologists, students, and volunteers. Each day, the team worked under the hot Jerusalem sun, carefully removing soil and debris from the excavation site. They documented every layer of earth, every stone, and every artifact they found. The work was slow and meticulous because the team wanted to preserve the integrity of the site and the historical clues it held. The excavation drew attention because of its location in the city of David, a site long associated with King David and the earliest kings of Judah. The findings added important information about the ancient city, its architecture, and the people who had lived there centuries ago. Dr. Eilat Mazar explored an area known as McAllister's Field 5, located northwest of the large Maccabean Tower. She focused on uncovering structures that had been buried under centuries of debris and layers from later periods. The area contained massive stone walls, some of enormous size, suggesting buildings of importance. In her 2006 article and later reports in 2007 and 2009, Mazar described these findings, providing detailed drawings and photographs of the walls. The walls Mazar excavated were not uniform. Some were straight, some curved, and they varied in thickness. The photographs showed that the walls cut through later cisterns, baths, and other structures, which made it clear that the area had been reused many times over the centuries. Mazar identified three main clusters of walls in her excavation area, on the western, northern, and eastern sides.
Later on, we found all these crushed pitoi, the largest vessels ever found in Jerusalem, crushed on the original floor layer of this structure.
On the western side, a large wall labeled W107 ran east to west. Sidewalls connected to it, though it wasn't clear if all of them
though it was unclear if they all belonged together. Scholars have noted that parts of these walls could relate to earlier excavations by McAllister and Duncan, who worked in the area decades earlier. To the north, a pavement labeled L565 ran east to west. This pavement was located in McAllister's Field 3, overlapping with areas excavated by Kathleen Kenyon. Kenyon had uncovered a large wall, Wall 51, made of enormous boulders and built partly from bedrock. This wall dates to the Middle Bronze Age and may have served as a northern defense wall. Mazar found a leveled surface south of Wall 51 with pottery from the Middle Bronze Age, showing continued use of the site over centuries. The eastern side contains several walls, including W19 and W20. Mazar found pottery from the early Iron II period in between these walls, although she suggested the sherds may have been deposited during wall construction rather than lying on a floor. At the far eastern edge was a wide wall running north to south along the hill's crest. Beneath a nearby tower that was removed due to risk of collapse, Mazar found Persian pottery, bullae, arrowheads, and seals, indicating use during the Persian period. Below the large stone walls,
Mazar excavated undisturbed layers down to bedrock. These layers contained late Bronze Age and Iron I pottery, animal bones, botanical material, and remnants of metallurgical activity, including smelting hearths, crucibles, blowpipes, and copper drops. These finds indicate that the area had been used for metalworking during the Iron I period. The excavation revealed massive stone walls, leveled surfaces, pottery from multiple periods, and evidence of industry, all within a complex area that had been built and rebuilt over centuries. Mazar documented each feature carefully, mapping and photographing walls, floors, and debris layers. These discoveries provided important data about the ancient city, showing how the area had been occupied, fortified, and reused from the Middle Bronze Age through the Persian period. After Dr. Eilat Mazar published her findings from the City of David excavation, the discussion among archaeologists and historians began in earnest. The large stone walls she uncovered, sometimes called the large stone structure, were suggested by Mazar as possibly belonging to King David's palace. Some scholars found Mazar's interpretation compelling. They noted the massive size of the walls, the thick stones, and the location at the top of the City of David, which could correspond to a royal building. They considered the artifacts found nearby, including pottery from the early Iron II period, as supportive evidence of the site being used during the 10th century BCE. However, other scholars questioned this identification. They pointed to the complexity of the site, where walls of different periods were built on top of one another. Some walls and debris were later than the Iron I period, while others were much older, dating back to the Middle Bronze Age. The overlapping structures and earlier excavations made it difficult to determine whether all the walls belonged to a single building. Adding another layer of interest, archaeologists discovered bullae or seal impressions at the site. Some of these bullae bore names known from texts connected to the time of the prophet Jeremiah. These finds suggest that parts of the area were in use many centuries after King David during the late Iron II period. Scholars continue to examine the evidence, comparing findings with historical records, pottery, and inscriptions. The debate over whether the building belonged to King David, a later king, or another official structure remains a central topic in studies of the City of David, highlighting the rich and layered history of Jerusalem.
Between the Temple Mount on the north and the City of David on the south, we are excavating the royal quarter that King Solomon built.
The search for Jerusalem's ancient past continues to this day, with archaeologists returning again and again to the City of David and Mount Zion. Teams from Israel and around the world carefully explore areas that had only been partially uncovered in earlier excavations. Each day brings the hope of new discoveries that might reveal more about the lives of the people who built and lived in the city thousands of years ago. Modern techniques are helping researchers uncover details that were once hidden. Layers of soil, stone walls, and artifacts are examined more precisely than ever before. Pottery fragments, seal impressions known as bullae, and carefully carved stones provide clues about when and how the city developed. Scientists use methods like radiocarbon dating, pottery analysis, and inscription studies to piece together timelines stretching from the Middle Bronze Age through the Iron Age and into later periods. Excavations focus on finding structures that might have served as fortifications, palaces, or public buildings. Some areas are still being explored to understand how walls and buildings were constructed, how spaces were used, and how the city expanded over time. Every new layer uncovered adds a piece to the puzzle of Jerusalem's long and complex history. Bible texts continue to guide the investigations. Ancient records describing kings, cities, and events are compared with physical evidence to understand the past more clearly. Archaeologists use this combination of written history and material findings to locate significant sites and determine their age and purpose. Institutions like the Armstrong Institute support ongoing work, providing resources and publishing findings so that each discovery can be studied and shared. With advances in technology and new excavations underway, researchers hope to bring the story of Jerusalem to life. Every stone, every artifact, and every wall uncovered adds to a growing understanding of the city, keeping alive the quest to uncover King David's tomb and other secrets hidden beneath Jerusalem's ancient streets. What do you think about the location of King David's tomb? Share your thoughts in the comments below.